Get them off this plane, now. The captain's voice cut like a blade, sharp and final. Two young black girls, barely teenagers, stood frozen in the aisle, their boarding passes still in hand. Passengers stared, some whispering, some smirking, while the flight attendant yanked their bags away. To the crew, they were nothing, just kids to be humiliated and discarded. But what they didn't know was that in less than 10 minutes, one phone call would bring their entire airline to its knees. Have you ever been treated like you didn't belong, only for the truth to flip everything upside down? Tell us in the comments. It was supposed to be the start of a joyful trip. Twin sisters, Maya and Mila, were heading out on a long-awaited vacation with their aunt. Both girls were bright, polite, and full of life, the kind of teenagers who lit up any room they entered. They had their matching backpacks, their hair neatly braided the night before, and an excitement that showed in every smile. For them, this flight wasn't just about reaching a destination, it was about stepping into a world bigger than the one they knew. Airports had always fascinated them. The buzzing crowds, the glowing departure boards, the feeling that everyone was heading somewhere important. As they walked through the terminal, they stuck close together, holding on to the dream of the beaches they had seen in photos. Their aunt reminded them to stay calm and follow the rules, the way she always did. And they did, because Maya and Mila had been raised to know that for kids like them, mistakes weren't forgiven as easily. At the gate, they noticed glances that lingered too long. Other families seemed to flow through effortlessly, but when it was their turn, the flight attendant's smile was forced, her tone clipped. Still, they brushed it off. After all, they had their tickets, their IDs, and nothing to hide. It was just a vacation, and nothing could spoil that, or so they thought. Once seated, the girls whispered about the snacks they might get on the flight, the movies they'd watch, and how they'd take pictures to show their friends back home. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. A shadow passed over them in the form of a uniform. A crew member leaned down, eyes cold, and told them to stand up. No explanation, no kindness, just a command. What would you do if you were in their place, staring at strangers, being ordered off a plane you had every right to be on? Before we continue, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. The aisle felt endless as Maya and Mila were marched toward the front of the plane, their hearts pounding in unison. They could feel the stares burning into their backs, whispers slicing through the heavy silence. Some passengers raised eyebrows, others pulled out their phones, but no one stood up for them. It was as if the entire cabin had silently agreed, these girls didn't belong here. At the gate, the humiliation deepened. The crew didn't lower their voices, didn't care who listened. "They don't look like they're supposed to be on this flight," one muttered. Another insisted their tickets were flagged, even though the girls had checked in without issue. Their aunt pleaded for clarity, her voice shaking, but she was silenced with a dismissive wave. Rules, procedures, policies, words thrown around like shields to cover the truth. The truth was simple. Maya and Mila were being singled out, judged not for what they did, but for who they were. Minutes stretched into hours in their minds. Their aunt's attempts to reason went nowhere. The girls sat on cold airport chairs, clutching their backpacks as if holding on to pieces of dignity that were slipping away. Travelers passed by, some glancing with pity, others with suspicion. To many, they weren't innocent children. They were troublemakers, outsiders, problems to be removed. And yet, the airline staff seemed smug, convinced they had done the right thing. After all, who would believe two young black girls over a respected airline crew? The imbalance of power was crushing, the injustice suffocating. Tears welled in Mila's eyes, but Maya whispered to her, "Don't let them see." They had learned too early in life that showing pain could be twisted into weakness. But in the middle of their despair, their aunt made a choice that would change everything. Quietly, she reached for her phone. With trembling hands, she dialed a number that only a few in the world could imagine having saved. It rang once, twice, then connected. The voice on the other end was calm, commanding, and carried a weight that could silence boardrooms. It was their father, the CEO of one of the largest corporations in the country. The staff had no idea who they were humiliating, no idea the power that was about to descend on them. And as the minutes ticked by, the ground beneath the airline's arrogance began to crack. What happened next would leave every witness stunned and the entire company scrambling to survive. The call set off a storm. Within minutes, the airline's corporate line was buzzing, managers rushing to terminals with panic in their eyes. The crew who had barked orders at Maya and Mila now stood frozen, suddenly quiet, as uniformed supervisors appeared. Word spread quickly. These weren't just random passengers. These were the daughters of a man with enough influence to make or break the airline's future. But the humiliation had already been carved deep. Maya and Mila still sat in those cold chairs, eyes down, feeling like criminals in an airport they had every right to pass through. Cameras caught it all, their small frames huddled together, security hovering like they were threats. And when their father's representatives arrived, the scene shifted like a tidal wave. Every airline official in sight scrambled to apologize. Suddenly, the crew who had dismissed them with arrogance spoke with trembling voices. But the damage was irreversible. Witnesses had recorded everything, passengers were uploading videos, and the story was already spreading beyond the airport walls. Their father arrived within the hour. He didn't storm, didn't shout. He simply stood tall, his presence filling the space with a quiet authority more crushing than any raised voice. He looked at his daughters first, their eyes wet but unbroken, and then at the airline staff who now shrank under his gaze. This wasn't just about two girls removed from a flight. It was about the pattern, the system that thought it could strip children of their dignity without consequence. And now, the man they had underestimated was holding them accountable. Airline executives were summoned on the spot. The crew who had mocked and mishandled the girls were escorted away in silence. Passengers murmured, stunned, realizing they had witnessed the unraveling of an entire company's arrogance in real time. What do you think happened next? Would their father shut down the airline completely, or demand something even more powerful in return? By the next morning, the story wasn't just an incident at one airport, it was global news. Headlines screamed about racial profiling, videos of the twins' humiliation flooded social media, and the airline's name was dragged across every platform. Millions of people saw two innocent girls treated like criminals, and the outrage was unstoppable. The airline tried to contain the damage with hollow apologies, but it was far too late. Their father had already made his move. With one statement, he announced the immediate suspension of the airline's contract with his corporation, worth hundreds of millions. Stock prices tumbled overnight, executives resigned in disgrace, and the airline's reputation crumbled beyond repair. For Maya and Mila, the pain of that day didn't vanish. They carried the memory of being singled out, of strangers' cold stares, of the way authority had made them feel invisible. But they also carried something else, the knowledge that they hadn't stayed silent. Their story had forced the world to look, to confront the ugly truth of what so many endure in silence. And for those who watched it unfold, the lesson was clear. Dignity should never be a privilege, it's a right denied to too many for too long. So now the question lingers for all of us. How many more humiliations, how many more stories before the world finally says enough? Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you saw those girls being thrown off that flight?